a protocol of honoring, a protocol of respect, a protocol of honoring is important in cultural design. And I want to look at why. Why is it that a disintegrated voice cannot facilitate cultural change without honoring the voices of those that are presently in the existing form of the culture and those that have shaped the culture in the past? Why is it that honoring, that respect, to look and look again, is the foundation for sustainable cultural evolution and iteration? Well, the first thing to understand is that growth is spiral in nature. Evolution is spiral in nature, right? And it begins with a seed and it starts to unfold. And one of the things that means is that each of us in the present moment, that the present moment rests on the shoulders, is nestled in the womb of all of the moments that have come before. You know, you can look at it if we take time and make it lineal, right? You have nothing over here, and then here you have the Big Bang, and then here you have the expansion and more expansion, right? If you put that as a lineal line, if there's no nothing to start with, then you don't get a Big Bang. If there's no Big Bang to start with, you don't get the next level, right? You don't get expansion without the initial opening, right? If yesterday didn't exist, today doesn't exist either, right? And so in the continual expansion, in the spiral growth of reality, we rest on the foundation, which, you know, if you have a foundation that is yesterday and today rests on that foundation, and then tomorrow rests on the foundation of today, if you don't see, if you don't honor, if you don't respect the foundation that is under you, you fall. It's not sustainable. If you build, if you destroy and dishonor the foundational pillars of your house and you build a next story, the house falls down. Right? It falls down in a mudslide. It falls down because you don't understand what you're depending on, what you're resting on. When an arborist does tree work, you know, the classic mistake is to cut out the tree from under them. You know, they climb up, they use ropes, and they can do an undercut, right? But if they undercut the main trunk that they're depending on, they crash down to the ground as well. Now, the other thing to understand about life, about evolution, is that you know, from the moment of the Big Bang until the present time, right, one thing rests upon another. Now, you know, hindsight is 2020, and so it would, of course, be nice to be able to go back and edit some of this. Like, this was a complete waste of money in here. Why didn't we, you know, do it like this, right, over here? That would have been so much more efficient. Save decades, save tens of thousands of lives. I mean, if we had just believed, Louis Pasteur and his understanding of pasteurization, we just believed germ theory 10 years earlier, just think of all the tens of thousands of pregnant women who wouldn't have been murdered by their doctors by discounting germ theory, right? Just wouldn't it be great? And yet that is the foundation, right? Our past rests not on the ideal foundation, but on the ignorant, corrupt foundation of people like ourselves who make mistakes, who don't see everything, right? In other words, the present moment is a vast reservoir of waste, corruption, stupidity. It's endless unnecessary suffering in the scheme of things. But we will not realize that for another 10,000 years. Right? The fact that 98% of everything that human beings are doing today on the planet is backwards, inefficient, causes massive amounts of unnecessary suffering for ourselves, for other people, for the ecology. The fact that that is the case will not be recognized for another 1,000, 10,000 years. With the AI evolution, that may happen a lot faster. In 500 years, we may look back in horror at the cruelty, at the stupidity, at the ignorance of today, whereas we look back maybe, a few thousand years. But, it's 500 years is enough. If we look back 500 years, leeches, drinking lead, drinking mercury, that's for medical benefits, right? So we're going to be looking at this time with that same lens, only it's going to be clearer because we're going to have a better data set. One of the things that an AI can do better than any researcher is collate and aggregate data on a planetary scale. And so our data resolution is going to be much clearer. And all of the bizarre studies that we're not doing, I can list 100 things that no human being on the planet has ever asked me in my entire life. And every one of those questions are very important to be asked and very important to be answered, right? And it's not personal, meaning the fact that no human being on the planet has ever even asked these questions, let alone listened to the answer, is not personal. They've never asked you them either, and you've never answered them, right? So the most important data and metadata on the planet is invisible. It is a gold mine that nobody has explored, that nobody has drilled into. We live in a don't ask, don't tell cult and consider it intelligent. Now, you don't have to do anything to be modern. To be contemporary and to be modern, you just have to exist. Whatever you are is the latest thing, right? But modern and contemporary are not intelligent, right? They're obviously intelligent enough to exist, but that's not a very high bar, right? And so intelligence and modernity have very little to do with one another. There are many areas that our modern cult is taking us backwards, meaning we're expending more energy than any cult in history per capita. Any cult in human history, in the entirety of more than 10,000 cults in human history, has spent less energy, less natural resources, and less money per capita than our cult. And yet we are more lonely, more isolated, more stressed, more confused, more overwhelmed than the majority of cults, right? So we're going backwards in areas, right? And that's just the way it is. We can look at just about any point in history and we find muddled, confused, disoriented, insane protocols where people are spending energy to go backwards in some area, right? The church and lightning is a great example. You know, for a period of time, the Christian church told its people that, God was angry, and that's why there was lightning and thunder. That was the wrath of God. And so anytime there was a thunderstorm, you had to pray. Now, the kind of cruel joke in that mythology is that churches were hit by lightning more than any other building because they were the tallest building in the village. And so until Benjamin Franklin discovered the lightning rod and did his research on electricity, and they could put lightning rods on top of churches, God was apparently punishing and also electrocuting people ringing the church bells more than anyone else, right? So the church was preaching that God punished the bad people and that only your prayers, if effective, would appease God's will. And churches were being burned to the ground. Churches and bell ringers were being hit. And so it's a mind-numbingly self-destructive belief to say that the people most associated with the church are apparently, God's greatest targets, right? So that's and we do the exact same thing today, right? We just don't know where we're dumb, right? And it doesn't even occur to us in most cases. But when we look back at this point 1,000 years from now, the amount of unnecessary suffering that we are dealing with today is off the charts, right? And so what this is about is looking at, well, what can we do about that, right? And bringing cultural design into the lexicon to where it's actually a word. Because we're so blind as cult members that there isn't even a word for cultural design. There isn't a single program existing on the art of cultural design, right? This is it, right? And that's going to seem like the most bizarre blind spot 1,000 years from now. Because cultural design is the most potent technology that doesn't exist on the planet today, right? So we rest on the shoulders, we rest on the foundation of those that came before, the moments that came before, the people that came before, the animals that came before, the evolutions that came before. We rest on that. And what that means is that we wouldn't exist today without all of that confusion, without all of that muddling, right? If we didn't have the fools of the past, right, with all of their many mistakes, if we didn't have the geniuses of the past with all of their many insights, we do not exist today, right? Because 99.9% of all that could exist doesn't. 99.9% of all that could exist doesn't. And 99% of everything that did exist has gone extinct, either by changing, all of it, frankly, by changing, or when the changes are more radical, by disappearing, right? The dinosaurs are not extinct, they're just so radically different, meaning all their bones became minerals and are now being utilized in the ecology in a way that we don't recognize, and so we think of them as just going somewhere. But in fact, all energy is neither created or destroyed, it just changes form. And when that form happens slowly and we can see the form, we call it evolution. And when that form is rapid and we can't see the new thing, we call it extinction, right? And so if a lizard develops a longer nose and then a longer nose, we call that evolution. But if the lizard no longer attunes to its environment and goes extinct, we call it instinct. But in fact, that lizard was eaten as it was dying. That lizard was eaten by other animals that went on, right? And so the evolution just took a hard fork into a different area. So we stand on the shoulders of lots of code, right? If we use the code building thing, you look at Microsoft Windows, right? And it is a bloated and it takes up a tremendous amount of space on a computer hard drive for what it actually does. And the reason for that is it has past relationships with different pieces of software, with different pieces of hardware that developed over time that it doesn't want to leave behind. And so even though you get a new laptop and you don't care about DOS and you don't care about this and you don't care about whether it loads this, if there's a program that licensed Microsoft and made a deal with in some way, then that has to be shipped, right? The new operating system has to have that port of connectivity, right? And so we get something that's literally 100 to 1,000 times, not only waste, but it slows our operating system down to go through all that wasteful contradictory code and compartmentalization so that all these things seem to work, right? So you can think of that in the transition that we're going through now. Like, we can't get rid of road signs. Like, why are they going out and cutting trees down, and putting 4x4 posts, and then going into a mine and mining chrome, right? Aluminum and steel, etc., mixing and making road signs and painting them with aerosol paints, and going out and maintaining them. Why are they putting road signs up when we have Google Maps that can say turn left, turn right? Well, it's the way they did them before. Well, why are they maintaining them? Well, there's still some people that don't have a phone with Google Maps. That's why, right? And so, even though they're far less relevant and they're vastly inefficient, we are still making road signs, and we're still going out and spending hundreds of billions of dollars around the world to put up road signs. Well, the hundreds of billions would easily buy everyone a cell phone and a backup battery and load up Google Maps. And it would save, millions of trees, right? Because there are millions of signs made with wood posts, right? So millions of trees, we've got global. So why is this happening? Why isn't there a concerted effort to say, okay, as of next year, the planet goes signless, and all that money is going to give high-speed internet to everyone on the planet who asks for it. There's the fund. It's right there, right? Why? Right? Why? Right? Because we don't have a science called cultural design. We don't have anyone making that calculation. We don't have anyone. No one in any government is making that calculation. Save trees, help global warming, save money, right? Save time, save maintenance in the future, not have to clutter up the countryside with large signs and be able to enjoy nature. And we've already got the technology. In fact, we're throwing away, Apple with their redundancy programs is throwing away phones. Oh, it's cheaper to buy a new one than to update that file, right? They're throwing away phones that could be handed out to anyone that wants them, and we could easily make the maps better, right? Better and up to date. And so everyone would have access to that technology. The views would open up, money would be saved, trees could stay planted, right? Global warming would be reduced, right? All those road trucks, highway trucks, and all those flaggers that go out to, you have 10 people involved in replacing one sign. Road cones, flaggers, flashing lights, right? They've all got to drive there in diesel trucks to replace one sign that has to be transported inefficiently on a big flatbed truck, right? All of that goes away. And those people can be spending time with their family. But to make that calculation, which is one of millions of calculations that no one is making, to make that calculation, you have to have the paradigm of cultural design, but you also have to understand the path and the past, right? Because a 90-year-old woman who doesn't want to use and learn a new thing, who doesn't have a cell phone and doesn't really want them, right? And who has arthritis and doesn't want the responsibility of that, but can still navigate around with the signs. She has to be taken care of. She has to be honored because her children don't exist without her, and her grandchildren don't exist without her, right? The present moment rests on her back. Without her existence, nothing else going forward exists. So she must be honored. Now, what we honor, right? What we honor when we change something. There is a repertoire of honoring. Right? One thing we honor is the fact that the past got us here. Without the past, there is no present. You don't exist, I don't exist, my ideas don't exist without the past and the people in the past who gave birth to us. Right? We honor the fact that without the past, we do not exist. The past brought us here. Now, what's the correct posture? Respect, understanding, appreciation. Right? If we believe in life, right? Life has so far a pretty good track record. Some tens of billions of years ago, it was this big. Before that, it didn't exist at all. And it was this big. And it's been getting bigger ever since. Not bad for something, right? What else do you know other than life that has gotten bigger for 20 billion years in a row? Just keeps getting bigger, right? The stock market doesn't keep getting bigger for 20 billion years in a row. It didn't even exist, right? All kinds of things come and go, but life has been around, and it's getting bigger. It's also getting more complex, more potentiated, right? It's the only thing that's been doing that for 20 billion years, right? So life is getting bigger, more complex. Time is expanding. It's getting longer for 20 billion years running. That is an incredible track record. I mean, people talk about, Warren Buffett's great investing track record because he's brought, good compounding yields for 70 years. 70 years. The Wizard of Omaha, right? Wonderful. But how about 20 billion years, right? So life's, it's a winner, So we must show reverence, right? Respect, awe, humility. None of us have done that. None of us. The smartest person on earth, the greatest wise ass, the this, the that, the genius, the Mensa, not one. The entire humanity has not pulled that off, right? So only life, right? So honor, respect, humility, gratitude. That's all rational postures for something that is billions of times bigger, billions of times longer in time, billions of times more complex than we are. Life is billions of times more intelligent than we are, as a pattern, as an identity. And life has won. Life is a winner. Life is winning constantly. Whether we win or lose, whether we or any species comes and goes, life goes on. And life's got so many backup plans, so many incredible backup plans, trillions of planets at life's disposal, right? At life's disposal, each becoming longer, bigger, more complex every single day. Trillions of planets in store, right? New ones all the time. You know, what do you think the odds are that in the next trillion years, one of those trillion planets will be 1,000 times more intelligent than we are? We could be it, right? But one of them, 1,000 times. Right? Well, we can't imagine that, right? But life can, right? Life's busy creating that probability field right now. So tremendous respect and reverence for life and what life has accomplished is in order. Awe, reverence, right? And the best scientists, the best pioneers have that attitude. Einstein has that attitude, right, towards life, right? Wonder, right? That is a form of honoring. We must acknowledge just how vast, how competent life is, right? Not our parents, life, right? So a respect of you know, a sense of respect at just how big, how vast life is. It's just incredible, you know? And yeah, I mean, I have not begun to do enough of that, right? To just, wow, right? In fact, I think this is the first time in my life that I've been reflecting on that, right? Because cultural design is an invisible technology, meaning it's not on the radar. I've never received a single hour of formal training on the art of cultural design, right? And so this is pioneering, but the beginning is respect, is awe, is, I wonder what appreciate, what the root words are for that. Respect, spect is to see, repeat, right? You keep looking, you keep seeing. That's to respect something. You know, if you don't respect something, you bang into it. And you're shocked because you didn't see it and you didn't keep looking, right? So when you disrespect anything, you disrespect yourself, because there will be conflict with what you do not understand and what you don't see. Whatever you dishonor, you will violate it, but in doing so, it will violate you. You can think of it as a tree, right? If you're driving down the road and you don't look and notice a tree that's in the road, right? It fell down in the road, but you don't see it. So you don't respect the tree, obviously. You drive into the tree, you damage the tree, but you also damage your car and you may kill your child, right? Because when you don't respect something else, you don't respect the part of yourself that is impacted by the collision. Now, some things, you know, you say, well, I have a tank, right? I'm not damaged at all. No, your tank has to go up and down, right? And maybe your back hurts after the tank, right? Or the engine in the tank, you know, is designed for 100,000 collisions, right? So there's another one, right? Everything has impact, just some more so than others. So it's important to honor, to respect, in that attitude of reverence for something that is much more intelligent and bigger than we are. I think another thing to honor and respect is the fact that everyone and everything in history has done the best thing that they knew how to do. Not always aware of it. Like we're aware of the phenomena of self-sabotage, where we start growing and then we refuse to go to the interview and we don't grow. And we call that self-sabotage, meaning that we sabotaged that job opportunity. And yes, we did. But we're not aware of why we did it and how we're actually doing the best we know of at that time. It may be incorrect. We're not aware of, for example, we may have body memories of being hit or beaten every time we climb in social rank, right? The bully knocked us down. So our body may be saying, don't do it, we're going to die. Because at one time, that voice kept us alive, right? At one point, we started up, the bully gave us a glare, and we backed down, and we didn't get beaten up, and we weren't humiliated that day at school. Backing down, caving in, kept us alive, right? And this is why it's important to become traumatically literate. Now, as an ignorant cult, we tell our members to move on, to let it go, because we do not respect and understand the biology of PTSD. We do not respect PTSD, so PTSD is destroying our cult. Through addictions, through violence, through a variety of things, PTSD is destroying our cult. Why? Because we will not look at PTSD. For thousands of years, cults have refused to look at PTSD and instead told their members to move on. Right? You can read the experience of Bessel van der Kolk in The Body Keeps the Score, just how much resistance he encounters to this day, trying to bring science to the body, right? As we don't respect the body, we are destroyed by our own bodies, right? As we don't respect certain protocols and processes, we are destroyed by them. We are injured by what we do not see and what we don't understand, right? And that's part of life, right? And so we have to understand that whatever it is we're doing, in whatever way we're doing it, and whatever it is that other people and other animals are doing, like you look at a rabbit, right, running across, the damn fucking idiot. Why doesn't it just get out of the road? Zigzag, zigzag. Why is this rabbit so determined to die? We ask, right? In our ignorance, we ask, why is the rabbit zigzagging rather than just getting out of the fucking road, right? In our ignorance, we dishonor the past. We dishonor the biology of the rabbit. So why is the rabbit zigzagging rather than going, just go straight out of the road? Because the zigzag is not designed for the road. It's designed to throw a wolf off or a dog off or a fox off, right? And so lots of little movements is what kept that rabbit and that species alive. If it just did anything hard to the right or hard to the left, that's a consistent pattern. It's easy for the predator to make a concerted effort and predict it and kill the rabbit, right? So the rabbit has not updated its biology for city streets. It's doing the best it knows how in the environment in which it evolved, which is changing rapidly. And so you get insanity, right? You impose a road on this, and you think that this rabbit is trying to kill itself, right? But you take the roads away, and this is still the best pattern for getting away from a wolf. Now, what the rabbit is not apprehending is that the wolf is no longer as big a threat as a car. Now that takes time and change. Over time, right? Over time, the rabbits that hear car noises and run away from them and have a new code are going to out survive the rabbits that do a zigzag down the roads. They're going to die off, and the rabbits that get out of the way of lights and cars by going away from them in a direct line, they will survive, and they will become the predominant species in the next few thousand years. But they're doing what they did based on what worked in the past, and that's what we're doing too, right? If every time we volunteered a question at home, Dad humiliated us for 10 minutes for being dumb, and the boss says, who has a question or who has a comment, we're going to say, no, nothing, right? Now, the boss is going to say, you need to speak up or you're not going to get promoted. But our body says, we know best. We don't want to be humiliated for 10 minutes. No, I don't need the promotion. I don't want to be humiliated. We're no different than the rabbit. And the thing is, we can't begin to consciously participate in evolving our current norms, our current protocols, which are all insane to varying degrees, until we honor the fact that protocol kept us alive, got us where we are today, helped us survive with fewer scars, right? It could be that we would need to be a drunk to manage the humiliation level if we had spoken up and been shamed every single day in our house. Could be that that memory load is too painful and we would have to be a drunk. So we may be losing a career enhancement, but we're not a drunk, right? There's trade-offs. And we have to honor the fact that every single animal and every single person on the planet today is always, in every single thing that they think, feel, say, do, and be, is always doing the thing that was most beneficial to them at meeting their needs at some point in time, even if it is the exact opposite thing for their well-being at the moment. They're doing what overall, right, has worked for them. Not only that, but not questioning authority has worked for many people in totalitarian regimes, right? In an autocratic family where every time you question the stupidity of Dad, that seems a bit stupid, right? If you get boxed on the ear, there's never any benefit, there's no change, and your siblings laugh at you and your mom turns away and doesn't give you any love and affection. What you learn is that it's better to be stupid, like Dad, than it is to question authority and be traumatized by your entire family with no benefit, right? And so that's a very difficult thing to unlearn, right? Because if you can question authority, your authority and other people's authority, without feeling like you're going to die, if you can question authority without feeling like you're going to die, well, you've got it made, right? Because you can say, well, that seems a bit dumb, and that seems a bit dumb, and you're on your way, right? But if questioning the status quo is linked with traumatic pain in a traumatically illiterate culture that knows how to give you PTSD but does not know how to heal it, you're screwed. Because you will never question authority, right? And you don't even know you have PTSD, and you don't know what to do about it if you did. And so you're going to stay in lane. You will be dictated by the highest authority in your group, in your cult. You'll just look who's in power, who's at the top in this circle, okay? What do you want me to do? And they say, kill your relatives, Sell drugs to school children? Okay, right? You're obviously the powerhouse here. I'm going to do it, right? Go to war and die in the trenches? Okay, right? So that is very important to honor. Everyone, including you, including Dad, including, the Pope, is always doing what they believe to be the best way based on biological, psychological data, right? That's why they're doing what they're doing, is it has worked better for them than any other thing. And another thing to respect that ties in here is the fact that the fear of the unknown in a low competent culture is the highest fear a human being can have. The fear of the unknown. Why in a low competency culture, right? Well, you have a neutral possibility field, right? Right. And so in a neutral possibility field, right, 50% of the things make things a little better, 50% of the things make things a little bit worse, right? But that's only if you're competent. If you're really incompetent, then when you try and innovate, you don't do a very good job of it. Let's see. Let's see if eating pens would improve my diet. Wow, terrible. If you're low competency and you're trying to improve your diet, you put rocks in, and it doesn't work most of the time. And so you just say, no, right? I may have a boring diet, but potatoes and eggs, that's what it's going to be, right? Every time I try and change it up a bit, it's a disaster. I don't know what I'm doing, right? So don't change, right? I tried this, right? My kid died. I tried that. I lost a finger. So stay on the tried and true, right? So the lower the competency of the culture, the higher the amount of trauma. The higher the amount of trauma, the more terror of the unknown is basically the code, right? So we are a low competency culture with very high trauma and PTSD in our midst, which makes the fear of the unknown the highest fear in the cult, in the land. Doing something unknown, being out of control with a stranger that we've never done before. Oh my gosh, get it. There's too many unknowns, right? Something I've never done, that's unknown. With a stranger, that's unknown. I don't know the result. I'm out of control, that's unknown, right? So no, absolutely not. So as we get high on the unknown, we do everything possible to kill off the possibilities we don't know. Now, the problem with this, and why it's something that low competency cultures and peoples do, is that half of the unknown is better than the status quo, and half of the unknown is worse. Right? If you think of an infinite path, for example, and milestones to infinity going this way, and milestones to infinity going that way, and we're here, right? If we go to here, we're going backwards. Here, we're going backwards. Here, we're going backwards. If we're going here, we're going forward, right? Wherever we are on the infinite path, there's a 50-50 odds. Like if there's a random number generator, mile 348,000. Okay, that's way into the future, right? Mile 348,000 way in the future. We're at mile 100, so mile 79. It's in the past. The unknown is neutral, statistically speaking, right? But in low competency culture, every time we deviate from the norm, disaster happens, right? And so we get it away from me, right? This nice man comes up and says, "Oh, can I play with your child?" Get away, you lecherous person, get away. Well, it could be that that person was a doctor, that they loved children, that they could have pivoted your life to the better, that having them as a friend would have resulted in saving your child's life in 10 years when they get leukemia. Could be. But all you saw is get that person away because it's new, because it's unknown, because it's out of my control, right? Someone says, oh, you're very attractive. Would you like to go on a date? You're unknown. You're unknown, right? So what are you going to do? No, you creep, get away from me, right? And so, okay, but it could be that you learned about good communication. It could mean that you stopped your drinking addiction because you had a healthy person. Or it could mean you got raped, right? And low competency cultures, they can't tell the difference. All they can say is it's new. That's the only thing that's weird. It's new. Get it away from me, right? So the lower the intelligence, the less discernment there is between the positive unknown, the negative unknown. So get it away from me, right? And so you have the problem, right? Why was Jesus crucified? Because he ushered in an unknown reality to the power structure of the Romans. It's that simple. Was Jesus bad? Was he worse than the Roman Empire? Was he horrible? No, right? But he was different, right? Forgive, turn the other cheek. It's okay to be poor. Human beings are equal. No, this is radical. Just kill him, right? So Jesus on the cross represents, right, a positive probability field that is killed by fear and ignorance because it's new and because it will upset the status quo, which all change does, right? And so we have to respect and understand that we do live in a low competency culture that knows how to traumatize large segments of its population, that does not know how to heal that trauma in large segments of the population, and that is terrified of the unknown. We must respect that they are terrified of the unknown because most of the time when they deviate from the norm, it goes badly for them because they lack the competency to discern between good and bad, right? So they don't do it, right? We must honor the fact that in us and in others, there is a tremendously high terror of the unknown. And that's where we'll leave it for now, but a whole, another conversation awaits to just look at all the many things and all the many ways that we must honor, we must respect, we must make peace with what is and with what has been, as the foundation for a successful iteration towards a new and more intelligent world.